nerds, it's your boy. Well, you know what? You know who I am. Let me introduce
Dab.
my let me introduce my guest host, Jazz, aka DJ Blade of Tostin.
Ooh, ooh. I like that one
You
because
like
that was a
that?
beautiful blade.
That was a dope blade. That was a dope blade. Listen, I don't need to introduce myself. You guys know who I am, and you guys know why I will not be introducing myself for the next few few weeks. But I do want to introduce our guests who have been here for a while, especially a dome who have not missed a single episode. I missed an episode. Jazz missed an episode. This is the Adome Show, and he is all up in the Night Sisters DM. Welcome, Adome.
What's going on, guys? Thank you. Yeah, consistent like the mail. Here I am.
Yeah, the MVP, man. You're the MVP of the podcast. Shout out to you. And also our boy Ruzzy is back. Welcome back, Ruzzy.
What's up, y'all? Brains. We talk about
Right.
brains.
It's the Walking Dead meets Star Wars. What did we do to deserve this? Because this was amazing.
We didn't deserve it.
We
Didn't
did
deserve
not
it at all. Didn't
I
deserve it
know.
at all.
We are
Here
not
we are.
worthy. We are not worthy of it, but it was amazing. All right, now that the finale has happened, want to get your thoughts on the overall of Ahsoka, but then also, this is going to be tough. We're going to rank all the Star Wars shows. That's going to be rough. So we'll see
Wait,
where
you're talking about
everybody.
live action and animated, or we're splitting
No,
it?
not animated, but the
Just
live
live action.
action Disney
Okay,
Plus shows,
gotcha.
which would include Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Andor.
Oh, that's my order.
Don't
Least
forget Kenobi. Don't forget Kenobi.
Oh, and Kenobi. That's right, Kenobi.
Yeah.
So those will be all.
I know where your head's at, Dab. You're like,
Good
hello
catch,
there. Nope,
good catch.
don't see you.
Clearly unranked.
Yes. Definitely. So, listen, I am very satisfied with this season. I thought it was really cool. The only thing is, I was not aware that it was going to be such a cliffhanger. I thought they were going to wrap things up in a nice little bow. They were like, no, fuck that. You get what you get, which I don't mind. I rather have things being left off than being rushed. So I just wasn't expecting things not to be wrapped up, but this episode left a lot more questions that it answered, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Let's go with Adome first, since you've been here longer than everyone.
Sure. Thanks for giving me the floor first. So, first of all, I love finales because, let you know, okay, the show's ending and they're going to wrap things up or lead into what's next. And clearly, this is bleeding right into the Heir of the Empire film that's coming. This is why this is wrapped up in this manner. I don't know if we're going to actually get Ahsoka season 2 before we actually get the Heir of the Empire movie, but I loved everything about this episode. It was fantastic. I mean, Jazz, shout out to you for calling how we were going to get Thrawn later in the seasons. I think he was only in 3 of the episodes. So yeah, shout out to you for calling that way back when I thought we were getting him relatively early. But because we got Thrawn in limited doses and we got Ezra very late, this is very a setup for kind of like Marvel Civil War kind of. If I can pick an analogy, kind of setting up how everyone's separated now as they were before. And, we still need a lot of questions answered. A lot of things, I thought the biggest thing for me was the ending with Balin. I was very interested to see what the hell's going on with him because Ray Stevenson, rest in peace, is obviously no longer with us. But they have to recast that after they, gave us with him on the statue. So I'm very interested to see what's happening there. And then, Ahsoka and Sabine are on Primidia just chilling. So what's going to happen with them next? There's a lot of questions need to be answered. So I loved it. I would have preferred maybe a little bit of a longer episode to give, chances to see some other characters that we didn't get to see. But otherwise, I thought it was great.
I agree. That's a great wrap up. Also, one of the things that I'm really glad happened that I predicted in an episode a few episodes ago is that Ezra dressed up as the clone trooper. Like, who did not see that coming? We knew he was going to do it.
You called it.
That was so Ezra, and the fact that they did that made me so happy. I was just like, "Yep, this is on brand for Ezra." So I really loved it. Ruzzy, what were your thoughts of the finale?
So, don't want to get in trouble. I liked it. I didn't love it. There were parts of it that I loved. And I think I would have liked more of a finality to the story here.
I can see that.
I think also, I think the show is incredible as a whole. I think looking at it as a whole is beautiful. It's like start to finish, it's really good. But I think the finale, I think there's a little bit more to be desired. Like a dome, I think we could have used more time or potentially one more episode entirely. I am a little worried that setting up like a new universe, a new film, and it's kind of falling into the Marvel situation. And I kind of want like a very nicely tight, compact story. So it's nice for having like the drop-ins of different characters, but I also kind of just as you know, I mentioned this before, I wanted just an Ahsoka show, just her. That's it, nobody else. And then I wanted the Rebels for season 2. And also we didn't get Zeb, so I'm a little mad about that.
I totally see your point about Zeb. Jazz, what about you?
Question though, Rosie, what would you have wanted to see like finale wise? Like
getting off that damn planet. No, actually, I would say like I would want more Shin and Balin. They were just at the end. It was just such a disservice to like their character arc and like their like performance throughout the show, and it just makes it even more devastating. Losing Rey, again, rest in peace. I mean, like just like this incredible performance. And like I watched an interview with him and he was really excited to kind of didn't want to let too much on in terms of his journey, but like there's more there. I know it. So, and I'm a little sad about that.
Totally see that. Well, we have a comment that I want to kind of point out, which I thought is pretty interesting. Carlos here, he says, this show actually put him off of Dave Filoni a little bit. He's at least a project where he had total creative control. He just doesn't care about emotional stakes and interpersonal conflict. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like I can see why you would get a sense of that from this show, maybe, because there wasn't a lot deep dive into maybe the Ahsoka and Sabine thing and some of the other interpersonal conflicts. But if you look at Rebels and you see all the stuff that happens with Kanan Jarrus and some of the other characters, and you also watch Clone Wars and you see how things happen with Rex and some of the other clones, there's definitely a lot of emotional stakes in those shows. There's definitely a lot of interpersonal conflict. So I would not, I would say give it more of a chance. I don't think this should put you off of Dave Filoni. I think he did a great job. I think the plan for this show, which may have been like a network idea and not his idea, but the plan of the show was pretty shaky. Like you have a show called Ahsoka, and nobody really knows who she is. So you got to watch Clone Wars to figure out who she is. Then you have all these characters from Rebels. Nobody knows who they are. So you got to watch Rebels to understand all of those characters. And now this new movie that's coming out, Heir of the Empire, possibly. Now you got to watch Ahsoka just to understand that. So there's all these threads you got to like sew together to kind of have a complete, satisfactory like experience. I see that being very, very risky, and it's kind of saying, "Hey, don't worry, Star Wars fans will do it." Well, like not everyone is a Star Wars fan. Some people just go to the movies because it's Star Wars, but they're gonna be left very confused if they go watch this new movie and don't understand who Thrawn is, Ahsoka is, Ezra is. I could see that being very, very confusing. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? Anybody has thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have quite a few thoughts. So I disagree that he doesn't care about emotional stakes and interpersonal conflicts for three big reasons. One, this show, I mean, Dab, you're right. This show required you to do your homework and to know backstory and context. And when you're understanding emotions, you can't understand them without background and context. You need that. When you talk about why people tick and why they act the way they act, you need background. Secondly, with this was a show that was done with, as you said, a character that was relatively unknown with a big name actress in the role. And, they didn't get the voice actor who played Ahsoka in the show. They got Rosario Dawson for this. So they were banking on her stardom to lead the show, which is why I think they went a lot of way with the things. And then thirdly, I mean, the fact that they brought back Hayden for Kenobi and this, I mean, I think he's probably done playing Anakin at this point, or maybe we'll get more Force Ghosts with this. So I think those are three big reasons why the stakes and the emotional and the what did he say? Interpersonal conflicts, I think, they were there, but they required you to do your homework to understand them, to have the context. So that's where I'm at.
I think also the interpersonal conflict. I mean, I think it's really. I mean, if you look at it like as throughout the entire series, you see Sabine and Ahsoka. I mean, that's like it's kind of like maybe slow and dragged out. But if you're looking at it as a whole, it certainly does come together. I think the emotional stakes. I mean, you got a little bit at that at the end. I felt like I was definitely cheated out of like a longer reunion. But I think overall, I think there definitely were moments throughout the show that definitely had a strong, pretty compelling emotional stakes.
I mean, that whole episode where Ahsoka's in the forest with Anakin, like that hit so hard. And even at the end of this one, that one scene, that got me too, because well, we'll talk about that when we get later into the episode. I have some thoughts about that. I mean, I kind of get why people feel this way. Like, but I also know that this was very likely, as Dab said, this is Disney being Disney. Obviously, they own Marvel. They know the formula that works. It brings in a lot of people. It's a very likely decision they made, and it may not have been Dave Filoni himself. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to saying like, hey, this is going to be a TV show and then it's going to go into a movie, those are all like network decisions. Those are people in, that's like a Kevin Feige would come up with, hey, this is going to be a TV show, this is going to be a movie. It wouldn't be the director or the showrunner and stuff like that. I think that's a little bit out of their, I don't know, pay range. It's probably like a Kathleen Kennedy decision. But I think there was a lot of, emotional stakes in terms of Anakin and Ahsoka, especially if you watch the cartoons. You know how she felt about, her master. And if you go and watch the episode in Clone Wars 315, 316, and 317, where they meet the Immortus gods, there's a lot of stuff about, how Ahsoka's relationship with Anakin has evolved, and now she got her final lesson from her master. I thought it was really, really cool. And that's what she needed. And it was a sense of closure, and you can see how she's different after she gets that closure. So I really, really did like that. So, all right. Before we start breaking this down, though, let's rank them. All right. So here are the here are the list. We got Mandalorian season 1, 2, and 3. Then we got Andor, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Book of Boba Fett.
Okay, so can we just agree that Boba Fett's at the bottom because he wasn't even really in his own show?
Hard agree.
I mean,
agree.
I love the character, but I mean, he just totally was hijacked. So can we just
did
put
him dirty
in the bottom spot? Can we just agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can agree on that one.
So, all right, do you want us to separate the Mandalorian seasons, or look at it? I don't
know. What do you guys think? You think the season?
I want to separate it. Like, even I don't know if I want to go as far as like separating all three of them, but definitely 1 and 2 separate from 3.
Yeah, because 3 was kind of weak, right? It brings the average down a little bit for the whole.
2 is a peak for me. 2, it's 2, 1, 3 for Mandalorian.
Same here.
Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. For me, 1 and 2 is pretty closely tied. But I think like 1 was just really, really fun because you didn't know anything that was happening. And then 3 was just
you know what? Separate them. Just
separate them, right?
Separated. All right. Okay.
All right. So for me, I think my favorite show is Andor. Right off the bat, loved Andor. It was a slow burn, but was it worth it? It was really, really good. Then I would say is Mandalorian season 1 and 2. Then I would say is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then I would say is Ahsoka. Then I would say Mandalorian season 3, and then finally Book of Boba Fett.
You put Ahsoka that low? Interesting.
It's not the fact that I don't like Ahsoka. It's the fact that I just really, really loved the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which a lot of people did not, which is fine. I really, really liked it. The fight with Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end is just probably one of the best moments of Star Wars history for me. And I loved young Leia. I know a lot of people didn't like her. I loved her too. So I really, really like that. Mandalorian season 1 and 2, amazing. And then Andor is really just my favorite. So it's not the fact that Ahsoka wasn't great. It's just those others were just really, really good.
All right. Let's have some fun. Adome, want to go next?
Sure. So I'm of a different mind than Dab on this. So I'm going to put Ahsoka at 1,
Ooh.
Andor at 2, Mando at 3, Kenobi at 4, and then Boba Fett at 5. I think for me, I mean, I liked Kenobi, but I also thought it was really just unnecessary for us to kind of get the remake of the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, because to me, it cheapens what happens on Mustafar. That's just my opinion on it. But the flip of it is, I love what they did with Leia, because originally I think they were actually going to try and focus a show on Obi-Wan and Luke, and then they completely went a different direction to write it, and it kind of explains like why Leia named her kid after Ben and why they have a relationship before A New Hope starts. So I love that they fleshed that out, but I don't think it's necessary to either of their stories as much as explaining like, okay, here's Andor, and here's why Rogue One was necessary, and here's Ahsoka and why they have, she's part of the Clone Wars era. She's, absent from, 4, 5, and 6, kind of, even though she's like, in Rebels and stuff. But then here we're setting up all the Thrawn stuff. It's great. And then, Mandalorian was the beginning of all the Star Wars shows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they took a completely new thing. I would say that a lot of people really didn't know anything about. I mean, I knew Star Wars fans did, but like the average person didn't even know that Boba Fett was the Mandalorian.
Nope.
So I thought they did a great job of building that up. But you needed characters that were relevant to people. That's why they made the character look just like Yoda to play Grogu, and then they added people along the way like Bo-Katan, and then they ended. I think why season 2 is the best, because when they ended it with Luke, there's no topping that. I mean, I don't know how they're going to top that with when he got his own hallway scene. So that's that. And then going to Boba Fett, I mean, like I said, I love the character, but like he wasn't really featured a lot in his episodes at all. His story wasn't really fleshed out. And I also read some stuff about how the actor who plays him was disappointed in how the show went down, because I don't think he was expecting to do more with the character, and I thought they were going to. I mean, I feel like I was more hype in Boba Fett when Cad Bane showed up than I was to actually see Boba, so that's kind of a problem. So those are my rankings.
Fair. Rezi.
So I'm gonna go Andor number 1, Mando season 2 number 2.
Fair.
Ahsoka, but it's also like tied with Ahsoka. So like I would say 2 is Ahsoka and Mando season 2, and I agree.
Okay,
I don't like CC Luke. Like there's no topping that, and that scene with the Death Troopers or the whatever. I mean, it was just like it was awesome.
No, I got it right here on my wall. Like I love that scene.
It's like my favorite scene. I played that over and over again, and I actually listened to. Well, I'll get into this in a minute, and then 4 would be Mando season 1, then Kenobi, then Book of Boba Fett, and then Mando season 3. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with that.
Interesting.
But I will say this: I love the music for all of the series. I actually listen to them regularly as just kind of like calming. Listen to it while studying. It's like all of the music is just so phenomenal. Like the fact that they were able to bring in the Clone Wars and Rebels, composer for Ahsoka is just amazing. So
there's some really good music in Ahsoka for sure.
So good.
Jazz, what about you?
All right, I am gonna break the mold a bit. Andor is number 1, and that's just been obvious. I've been saying that for God knows how long. I actually would put Ahsoka at number 2.
Okay.
I know some people might be like, "What?"
No, I get it.
Yeah, it's not that Mandalorian season 2, those scenes were amazing, but the way this show hit me different. Especially, and it really is just one episode. If that one episode wasn't there, I probably would put Mando season 2 over Ahsoka. But that one episode where it's Ahsoka training with Anakin, like the visuals, just everything about it, the journey, it was just so good.
Yeah. Also, young Ahsoka, like was the first time we ever got to see a child soldier in any of the Star Wars stuff, which actually hit home. So I kind of see your point there.
Yeah, like that one episode was just so good. Then yeah, Mando 2. Where this is where I might also break the mold. I'd put Kenobi over Mando season 1.
Okay.
But that's because of a nostalgia thing for me. And yeah, like I know everyone's like, oh, quit using nostalgia as a, play to make your show better. Well, okay, yeah, great. It worked for me though. So
I agree with you, Jazz, because there's this one scene where he goes like, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did," and like, oh my god, that gives you so much closure, and like it just, oh, I love that scene where you just like his eyes goes from like all red to blue, like the background lighting. Oh god, it's just such a beautiful scene. So like that's why it goes a little higher for me because I just love that scene so much.
yeah,
It was
Obi-Wan's
dope.
also one of my favorite characters of all time. So having seen his closure, like, yes, so good. So yeah, I would put Kenobi over Mando season 1, and then Mando season 3, and then Book of Boba Fett at the bottom.
All right. And we got some people in the comments. Carlos is saying for him, it's Andor, Mando season 2, Mando season 1, Kenobi, Mando season 3, Ahsoka, and Boba Fett. So, all right, cool, man.
He really is turned off.
He did not like Ahsoka. The thing is, for me, the top 4 are just so close. Like it's really just like Mando season 3 and Book of Boba Fett that I didn't love. Everything else, like someone makes a really good argument, it can go either way for me. Stuff for some of these, I was
Totally.
like, all right. Like if you make a good argument for season 2 of Mando, I could put that over Mando 1 super easy. Like it's so close for some of these. And I don't know. Same thing with Ahsoka and Kenobi. I feel like they're so close. If you give me a good argument, I would easily push one over the other. But all right, let's get into this episode because oh man, it was great. So we got let's see. It's called the what is this episode called?
Jedi, the Witch, and the
Jedi, the
Warlord.
Witch, and
the Warlord.
Yeah.
Which is
The
obviously
Lion,
a
the Witch, and the
reference,
Wardrobe. Yep.
Yeah.
which is
I love
really
it.
really funny.
Very
I
clever.
thought that was pretty funny. All right, so we obviously got a little Kanan Jarrus reference when Ezra is in the ship making lightsabers, which I thought was pretty cool. And then when he mentions that, his master was Kanan, Hugh Young had the exact thing he was looking for, which is that little cylindrical thing that Kanan had on his lightsaber, which I thought was a really cool reference, a little bit of like respect to the OG. God, I love Kanan Jarrus in Rebels, and it's so good to see that reference. What were your thoughts about that? Sorry.
That scene it's another one of those scenes like where they're gonna hit the nostalgia button and people are gonna be like, oh, I love it. And yes, it worked for me because that's exactly what I said. I love this.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool how Hugh Yang didn't say Kanan, he said Caleb. He was
Oh,
talking
right.
about his previous name. And I shout out to Freddie Prinze Jr.
Caleb
because
Doom.
if you've watched Bad Batch, that was kind of funny. In the first episode when they show Caleb and his master gets killed, they let Freddie Prinze Jr. play the voice of Caleb when he was like a kid, and it sounds completely off. He's got like this deep voice and he's running around, and that was kind of funny to me. No, I thought it was great, and I was hoping that Ezra would get a lightsaber, and he got one right away.
Yeah. I do have a little bit of like, where do you get that kyber crystal? Where'd that come from? Because I thought Jedi have to usually have a personal attachment to the kyber crystals or something like that.
And they go on a journey to that cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So, but his blade was green, and his original blade was green. So maybe it was his original kyber crystal that maybe he had kept.
Well, if you remember, when Balin was talking about, I think he called them Boken Jedi, the Jedi that are trained outside of the Order, like after the Republic had fallen. I don't think that they're taking these like stereotypical journeys to find the kyber crystals. Probably just wherever they find them lying around, they just take what they can get and then go from there.
Where'd you get that on Amazon?
Yeah, exactly.
Prime delivery.
Rosie, what about you?
No, I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, after watching the show pretty fresh, I think I was like, oh, I recognize that. And seeing Kanan's hilt. I think just the conversation about, Hugh Yang was talking about like the relationship between the master and apprentice is challenging. And clearly we've just seen that throughout. Also, I like how his like little arms were like grabbing other parts in the little like
Yeah.
like the build a bear or build a
Build a lightsaber.
lightsaber build a lightsaber bear little area of the ship. So when the ship went down, I was like, oh no, not the little workshops. But yeah, I'm sure he has like literally a drawer full of kyber crystals and just like, okay, I like this color. So.
Yeah. And while this is happening, Morgan is going through a transformation. So the Night Sisters are giving her a gift, the gift of shadows. And because of that, she gets this dope ass sword, which is the blade of Talson. And what's really cool is Talson was in the Clone Wars cartoons, I believe, and she is the mother of Darth Maul. And because of that, it's her sword, and I guess, I don't know, maybe her spirit's in it or something, but it was a pretty cool scene to see because the special effects looks just like they do in the cartoons, which was pretty cool. Rezi, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I loved it. I was also just like the video game. So one of the Night Sisters is your ally in Jedi Survivor, and like
Yeah.
just seeing the green magic, I was like, yes. I was like, this is great. So that was a lot of fun. It was just very consistent. But then the Great Mothers had her like read this chant. It was almost like the Shahada of Night Sisters. So and that's a declaration of faith. We'll put it on a dome sometime. You won't even know. By the end of the episode.
To this blade,
Yeah. Dome's gonna be Muslim by the end of the episode at some point. So,
or a Night Sister, one of them.
Or a Night Sister, one or the other.
I'm already in the DMs. I'm good.
Mashallah, brother.
Oh man, that's funny. I don't. What were your thoughts about the initiation of Morgan?
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I agree with everything Razi said. But at the beginning of that scene, when Thrawn was talking to her, I thought for a second that Thrawn was actually going to sacrifice her to the Night Sisters for something, because the way they were talking, she was like, something like, your path is this. This is what's necessary. And I was like, damn, is she about to just be sacrificed so they can get more magic out of her? But then, obviously, it was the complete opposite. He was offering her up so she could become a more powerful ally. And I thought the blade was an awesome callback to the Clone Wars, because clearly these Night Sisters, their magic transcends time. Doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, they can pull things up. So I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
You also had like Thrawn kind of admitting like his weakness. Because Morgan was just like so like real, like, oh, we can defeat these like 3 people. And he was like, even I fell victim to the heroics of a single Jedi. I was like, damn, you're actually admitting that. All right.
Yeah. Ezra got him good. He got him good. I thought that was really cool. But while this is happening, Huyang did mention that the reason Ahsoka and Sabine had this little, I guess, like tiff or breakup was because she didn't think she would be a good candidate to be a Jedi because of what happened on Mandalore, which is what Moff Gideon burned all of Mandalore and killed all her family, and no one could go back to Mandalore. So I thought, that makes a lot of sense, because when you're a Jedi and you can't have your emotions in check, it can lead you to the dark side, which is what she's seen happen to her master. So I thought that was really cool. I like that they shed a little bit more light on why their connection as a Padawan and master did not go as well. Jazz, any thoughts on that?
This one is fun because Huyang sees everything through a very logical lens, and he doesn't see the exact emotion that, maybe even Ahsoka felt, right? I don't even know if she felt it or even thought about it. And then when Huyang just puts it out there, it's like, oh, wow. Huh. Wow, when you say it like that, that makes a lot of sense. But then there is more internal conflict there. And to Carlos's point in the comments, he's kind of right about that, actually, because I felt like this part fell flat. So, yeah, like I get what he's saying. Like, the emotional stake here, the conflict here, it could have been explored more. And even with the lightsaber part, right? Them just building it. I know we talked about how Jedi's don't bond with their lightsabers the same way if they were to like actually look for the crystal instead of just bumming one off of whatever's laying around. There are some misses here, but also I hope they explore more of this in the movie, and I'm hoping they're setting something up here for us.
I feel like they are, because I don't think there was enough satisfaction between Ahsoka and Sabine in terms of master and Padawan. Like, even the part where she goes, "Are you keeping up with your training?" And she goes, I try. Well, I do. A little reference to Yoda, which I thought was really, really cool. But like, it seems like there's still a little bit of like, distance between them. So I thought I kind of see what you're saying, Jazz. Adom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting that this conversation is between, Hu Yang and Ezra, kind of, even though it's short, about Ahsoka. But then I was thinking to myself, like, when Hu Yang says, Ahsoka didn't think that Sabine would be a good candidate for this because her family all died on Mandalore. I was kind of thinking, like, well, it makes complete sense that Ahsoka would feel that way because she's watched every iteration of Anakin. She became his Padawan when he was still very young. She fought in the Clone Wars with him. Then she thought she lost him. Then she realized that he's Darth Vader. And then one of the good parts of Book of Boba Fett is she meets his son and hangs out with him at his temple. And so it's kind of like full circle. It's like, well, I think she had some line in Mandalorian where she was like, I've seen what attachments can do to a fully trained Jedi Knight or something like that, when she's talking about Anakin. So to me, that was all full circle on why she decided, hey, I've seen this happen before with the best of us, and with Sabine, I'm not going to take any chances. So, I'm done. So I don't know. That's kind of where I was with it.
I get that. Rosie, what about you?
I mean, largely the same thing, but also I like how she had mentioned, "Oh, I'm a friend of the family." Just like good line there. But I think it was really, I like the conversation that Sabine and Ahsoka had outside on the wing of the ship, and where Ahsoka basically just like called her out. I see the gamble paid off, and they just like talked about difficult choices and just how I think like you could kind of see like the wisdom kind of like permeating from Ahsoka in a way that it hadn't been for like the wise master, right? And I'm digging that. Like obviously, like some criticism is like it's not the Ahsoka we've seen, and I think we discussed in a previous episode that of course not, because she's an adult, and she's a Jedi master and all of that, right? She has her own Padawan. She's not a child anymore, and so it's a totally different situation. But she's like really leaning into it in a way that suits her, and Rosario Dawson just like does this so flawlessly. Like I think she did such a phenomenal job throughout the entire series. So good to me, and I'm very happy to kind of see her shine.
All right. Is there anybody I didn't ask? I think we got everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And next, as they're talking on the wing, we see that Thrawn has these two ships go out and kind of find Ahsoka, and they find them and they attack them, and Sabine gets in the car, gets in the ship, and she basically blasts the whatchamacallit. I forgot what they're called. What are those ships called?
TIE fighters.
TIE fighters, yes. So she just clips them with their wings, and just totally just destroys them. But now they have to figure out a way to get all the way to Thrawn and see if they can get there in time, which adds a little bit more difficulties for our Jedis. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then as this is happening, Thrawn sees a bunch of his soldiers, the night troopers, and he goes, do they all understand? And Morgan Nesbitt and the Night Sisters are like, yeah. So these people are consenting to something, and at this point we don't know what they're consenting to. We find out a little later, but we don't know what they're consenting to. But the fact that we find out that they actually turn into zombies, I thought that was really cool. And I really wonder like, do they do it because they just love Thrawn and they really believe in him and, they're all about him? Or they had to consent because the spell doesn't work without your consent. I don't know what it was from the two. What are your thoughts, Adom?
That's a good question. So going back to when Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine show up, I thought it was a very interesting flip on what happens in the Mortis episodes, because in those episodes, Ahsoka is clearly behind Obi-Wan and Anakin, and here she's leading Sabine and Ahsoka when they go into the temple. I thought that was a nice kind of flip on that. But the whole consent thing, I mean, I think there has to be some form of consent, because if you remember back in the Clone Wars, like Maul has to consent when he brings his brother to become like Savage, like when they turn him into like the more powerful version of himself, he totally gives his consent. So I don't think there's a question that there has to be some sort of consent. But also, I mean, they've been stuck on Primidia for a long time. Maybe this was them thinking like, hey, maybe if I commit to this, it's my way out of here. I'm trusting Thrawn to get us back home. Maybe this will work.
Yeah, very true. I like that. Jazz, what about you?
I don't know how to answer that question, man. Just because, like, I know he's asking that, but that could just be Thrawn being Thrawn, like him being the master brilliance. What is that word? Where you're like the strategic guy? Yeah, strategist, right? Yeah, like he's dotting his T's, crossing his I's. It may not be that they need consent for this spell. I think that was just Thrawn being Thrawn, like, hey, are you 100%? I need, like, this has to happen. Are you guys ready? And then by asking for consent, it's like, yes. That means like they're all in 100%. They're willing to give their lives for the cause. And I think that's just Thrawn's way of saying that. I don't know if it really has anything to do with the spell itself.
Yeah, I could see it both ways. Like, there could be like they just have so much respect for Thrawn where he can literally ask people to sacrifice their lives and they'd be like, yes, sir, we'll do it. And then there's the other version where it's like, all the stuff that Adom said. Rosie, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a sucker for zombies, so clearly my tagline. Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was great. I mean, I think, yeah, I thought it was very typical of Thrawn, and so I didn't really think anything of it. But I also kind of like, I actually thought they were like zombies beforehand, so I didn't know like whether.
Oh,
they
you
were
thought they were
alive or
already
not.
zombies?
Yeah, because also like the two that fought Ahsoka and Sabine towards the end, like those were obviously, and so makes me wonder, like, okay, well, how many resurrections have they been doing here? So maybe some of these were actual people, and then others were zombies. I'm not quite sure. So, but I'm all for it. So
yeah,
I don't think, to your point, Rosie, I don't think aside from Enoch, I don't think we've heard any of the stormtroopers there or night troopers, whatever we're calling them, have actually spoken. I don't think we've actually. So they could have been zombies the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that we get to see Enoch and without a mask, because I mean, him in Expanse, I mean, he's like the best. He's the star of that show. So okay, we won't go into another show, but that show is amazing.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. I totally like that. And I think you're right. They might have like infinite like lives where they just get like resurrected 100 times. We don't know. I thought that was really cool. Part of me wants to like capture that video and put the Thriller soundtrack in the back of it and see how that goes. I think that'll make a great TikTok. I might do that.
I will kill you.
It's midnight. All right. The other thing is, Carlos had a comment here about the conversation between Ezra and Huyang. He said that was such a cool explanation about why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine, but it was insane that that moment and that revelation happened between Ezra and Huyang and not Ahsoka and Sabine. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's pretty cool. The other thing that I thought was pretty cool was when they start fighting. Now they're back at the whatever that giant landmark is.
Citadel.
Citadel,
that's
yes.
what I'm calling it.
The Citadel, and they have to get on the ship, and the ship is going, and they're like, it's too far. And they do this thing where they're like, okay, you jump, and I'm going to force push you. And I thought that was really, really cool, because that's something that you can do in the video games and stuff like that sometimes. And I thought that was really dope. And I wanted to see him do it to her and pull her. And so they both get on the ship, but she decides not to go, which I thought was pretty crazy. But it made that line where she's like, "Well, you're all alone here," and then she just pops out and goes, "Not alone." And I think that's just such a dope line, and I've seen it in so many other shows too. I know they did it in Infinity Wars, where Scarlett Johansson just comes out and goes, "She's not alone," and they also do it in Lord of the Rings, where there's like, I think Carl Urban's character comes out and goes, "He's not alone." So I love that line. I love the way they set that up. That whole sequence was just amazing to me, and then after that, the fight was just incredible. And I think like we find out that like Ahsoka gets the sword of Talsan and slices her with both the Jedi sword and the sword of Talsan, which I thought was really cool. And you hear this like guttural reaction noise. Great sequence, great fighting, great action, and then great little like, I mean, I kind of knew Sabine was going to show up, but the line just made it so much cooler. Let's go around the room and see what everybody's thoughts on that was. Adome, you want to go first?
Yeah, so little history here. So the actress who plays Morgan Elsbeth is the daughter of Danny Inosanto, who is actually Bruce Lee's best friend.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting on them to put a sword in her hand because
she's Bruce Lee's goddaughter, I believe.
Yes, yeah, she is. Clearly has she got some lessons from him. Clearly, the way she was fighting. I was happy to see the rematch. I'm glad she didn't have a spear this time. I thought it was some of the cleanest lightsaber fights that we've seen so far. I mean, it was quick. It kind of reminded me of like the Maul versus Obi-Wan a little bit with how fast they were moving. I thought that was awesome. One gripe I have about this fight scene though is like, okay, so in Clone Wars, I think we saw Mace Windu fighting with the Great Mother when she had the sword, and that fight was a lot slower. I think it took longer, but here it was really quick. I mean, I know that Sabine was there; she had help, but it felt like Ahsoka was really overwhelmed by all the night troopers, and then all of a sudden Sabine just came, and then it was just, oh, the fight's over now. Like, has Sabine progressed that much in a short period of time? I mean, she pushed Ezra up out of nowhere. I think that was like her first force push. Helping the door, I was like, okay, she's clearly got her mojo finally. So I don't know. I don't know. That was a little weird to me.
I wonder. Maybe I'm confusing the timeline, but does this fight happen before they fight all the Night Soldiers or after? I think I might have skipped the part where they're fighting all the zombies.
This is after, because they fight the zombies when they're like walking up the stairs and they keep like shutting the door.
Keep going up the stairs. Yeah, actually, it's funny.
There was a scene though. I was gonna say there was a scene where Sabine does something and Ezra turns to her and goes, "Oh, like you've been practicing," and she goes, "Yeah." Or Ahsoka says she's been practicing. So I think like that was supposed to represent like how she's better, and it might be because Ezra is around. She suddenly has a better connection to the Force now because of him. I don't know. That's
Jesus. There you go.
I have a thought about that, but we'll get into that later. Before I lose my train of thought there, with regards to these scenes where Sabine didn't get on the ship, or the fact that Ezra and Sabine didn't talk about how she got there still. I think Carlos is right again. This is another plot point that had a lot of emotional stake that they just overlooked completely. Like, how is Ezra gonna make the sacrifice in Rebels, right? He made sure that Thrawn could not do what he does best by taking him quite literally a galaxy away, right? And then suddenly Sabine comes back for him, but also that kind of invalidates the sacrifice he made. And all the years he spent here, I mean, sure, you delayed it for a few years, but you're still bringing Thrawn back.
Yeah, but you're bringing Thrawn back when the Empire is like gone, and not bringing him back when the Empire was at its height. So
okay, but still, it's Thrawn.
It's true. It is Thrawn.
It's still Thrawn. He's still the most badass of villains like ever in any show, really. Why would you risk that?
Fair. I do want to go back to Ruzzy though. Ruzzy was saying something before we came with that. Ruzzy, what were you saying before?
Yeah, so I think it was pretty telling just like how Thrawn was willing to just like literally do whatever it takes to get out of there. Like, but he did it in such a calculated way and with obviously no emotion because he doesn't have any. But so like he didn't care about, so like Shin and Balin, right? Just kind of like going off after Sabine and Ahsoka, but also or Ezra, but also when earlier in the episode he was like kind of freaking out, but he wasn't freaking out, and he said the Jedi are advancing swiftly. We require more time, and then you look at Morgan. And then she just like immediately understood her sacrifice. And I was like, yes, I cannot wait for that fight. I actually put that in my notes. So like,
Yeah.
I can't wait for this fight. So yeah.
What I really loved about that scene where he goes like for the Empire and she goes, sure, whatever. And then when he walks away, she goes, for Dathomir. I was like, oh shit, yes.
Yeah. That was dope.
I don't give a shit about your Empire. I'm here for myself. I love that.
Exactly.
That was cool. I know we talked about this a little bit, but I think we need to go back and talk about it a little bit more. The zombie fight, man. I just loved it. There's this one scene where Ezra force pushes people into Ahsoka's lightsabers, and it's just like it's such a dope scene. And you see like Sabine using her lightsaber, but at one point she's like struggling, so she's like puts it away and starts using blasters. And I just think it's really, really cool. The whole fight scene was just really, really well done. I love seeing the zombies. The part where you see the mask break off and you see the zombie's face, I thought that was really, really cool. And she used the Kylo Ren move where she takes the lightsaber, turns it on, and just blasts it right through the head. I thought that was really, really cool. And then I believe Ahsoka does a move or was it Ezra? I don't remember. Somebody does a move where they chop the head off, and all you see is the lightsaber helmet just like rolling down the thing. I just love the zombie fight. It's one of my favorites. So I just want to go around the room and talk about what were your thoughts about the whole zombie fight. Rosie, you want to go first?
I'm the zombie king, so yeah, I think it was great. I mean, I think there are two scenes that were just like so dope, just like cinematically. So one was when like Thrawn was standing in the middle earlier in the episode, and then like you had these two TIE fighters just like fly past him. That was so cool. And then the second was when Ezra force pushed the zombie into Ahsoka's lightsabers. And
I love that.
Had this like superhero pose. That was just so much fun. I think like obviously like any horde of zombie, they just like keep coming, and so like clearly they kept that up throughout. But then they had but they somehow still had like brains to like blast through the door. So I was a little confused by that, because if they're like dead zombies and they like are just stupid, just like what are these smart zombies? Like what's going on here? Or it's magic. So a lot of questions on the zombies, and I'd like to know more about the zombies is what I'm trying to say here.
I'm also very curious about how the zombies' brains work, but we'll see. Adone, what about you?
Yeah, I love that we get, lightsabers and zombies in enclosed spaces where it's not just like, because I on Dathomir, the Clone Wars, when the zombies came up, they were in like a field, and so like it wasn't an enclosed space, but here it was clearly, defined space of movement. And I thought it was kind of hilarious when the three of them are like deflecting the blaster shots, and if you watch closely, Ahsoka and Ezra are just reflex back and forth. But if you watch Sabine, she gets hit in the face and she can't block straight, so she starts taking out her blasters. Like that's funny to me. She's like, "Fuck this!" Like I'm gonna start shooting.
And Ahsoka was even like, "Sabine, blasters."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's like the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
it's like your mom, like right, your parents telling you what to do.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And then with the zombie, we talked about like them breaking the door. I don't know. I'm kind of in the camp of like, this is the Night Sister hive mind that's at work. So I don't know. Maybe they're like, Thrawn's telling them, "Hey, I need this to happen. Like, I need this to happen." So then the zombies go do whatever he wants. That's how I look at it. Because to Jazz's point, like, with Thrawn being who he is and how he thinks about things, I do not believe that he would just leave the zombies versus the Jedi as a chance. He wants some sort of control over the situation.
Also, it could be a test, because we don't know if the zombies happened before. This could just be a first look at what the spell could do. Like, we don't know if they've ever done this before in front of Thrawn. So Thrawn not only got the defense that he needed, but it was also an experiment to see what these zombies are capable of exactly. Which, the more knowledge he has, the more dangerous he becomes.
And no better test subjects than 3 Jedi, right?
Exactly.
Fair, fair. I thought that was cool. And maybe there's a situation where like every time they get resurrected, they're like dumber or slower, right? The first time they're just like resurrected, so they're just like hurt. And then what's the name? Paralysis has not set in yet, rigor mortis. And then after a while, they're just completely zombified. All right. So at the end, Thrawn has this speech and he's kind of just like talking to Ahsoka and saying like, I don't know you, but I know you because I knew your master. And I was like, oh, she was like, I had your number. And then he ends up like leaving and he was just so satisfied. He was like, yep, they're stranded. Exactly how everything worked out exactly to my plan. I'm the man. And he's feeling really good about himself. Little he know Ezra's also on this, and he's whatchamacallit, talking on the comm as he always does in the Clone Wars, pretending to be a stormtrooper. And now he puts on the stormtrooper suit and he gets away. So Thrawn didn't 100% get everything right, but he did get a lot of it right. What are your thoughts about Thrawn's last speech? Let's go with Jazz.
Bro. When he called like to get a line open and the way he just said it, like how it's almost arrogance, but at the same time it's like he deserves it. He did it right. He did it. And so I don't disagree. Like, yo, good on you, but man, if you're gonna gloat, good luck. I know the universe will come back and eventually hit you for it, but in that moment, it was just really funny and badass, and I loved it.
Yep. Adome, what about you?
I loved it. I mean, he's clearly had this one in the proverbial chamber for a minute, waiting to give this speech to somebody when he gets off. But I mean, I think his bravado is going to go very quickly the other direction when he finds out that not only it's not the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, it's the son of Anakin Skywalker that blew up the Death Star and ended the Empire. So I think there's going to be a change in that. So I'm glad he got that out of the way, because I think whatever's coming next, he's going to have a very different way of approaching people, I think, going forward.
Because he doesn't even know that the Empire is gone, does he?
No, and actually in the Thrawn books that were written, there's actually some squabbles in the third one, Thrawn Treason, where he and Director Krennic are actually vying for like resources versus, it's like the Death Star versus his TIE Fighter project. Mm-hmm. So once he finds out that like not only did Krennic's project not go anywhere, which he didn't want, the fact that it was blown up twice, that's going to change his calculus, I think.
That's funny. Rusty, what about you?
It was blown up twice.
I love the line where he was like, and this is where a Ronin like you belongs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was thinking,
so good.
Like, what is the best way to describe Ahsoka? A Ronin, like someone who's masterless. And I think masterless. I just like, it just kind of stuck with me. And also like, the music, like her fighting style. I mean, just like everything about her is just very Ronin-esque. And then, I mean, he totally did this. Like his channel speech was out of pure arrogance and to just like kind of throw salt in the wounds. And then he just ended by like, today victory is mine. Long live the Empire. Peace out. So it's just like, I mean, it's like, damn. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Love that, love that. So now we see Sabine and Ahsoka return back to the Ninja Turtles, and they're back and trying to be like, okay, we got to figure out how to live on this island. What are we gonna do here or this planet? But Ahsoka sees an owl, which we see often with Ahsoka, and it has a little bit to do with the Mortis gods, I believe. And when we see Balin, he is on the statues of the Mortis gods. There is the father, the son, and the daughter. And we see the father, and we see the son, and we see the daughter, but the daughter is headless. There's no head, which I thought was really, really crazy. This is the part of the show where I was like blown away, and I was like, oh shit, what's going on? We just saw the owl. Now we're seeing this. Holy crap. It was insane. What are your thoughts, Jazz?
Okay. That owl literally made my jaw drop when I saw it the first time. I was like, are they gonna go this route this soon?
Right?
Okay. Like, it's one hell of a setup. I don't know how they're gonna pull it off with just one movie, but cool, I'm in. And then yes, the headless daughter. I'm like, there's just so many questions I have now, so many theories, and I mean, I could probably spend a whole episode, another podcast episode, talking about all this.
Very true, very true. I'll fill our cast in a little bit on that too, but I want to get everyone's opinions. Adom, what's your opinion on that when you found out all about all of that?
I loved it. And if you remember in Mandalorian season 2, right before we see Ahsoka for the first time, Moray the Owl is there on the planet where Morgan had
We
all those
see it.
people.
Yep, where we
Yeah,
see
you see the owl
Ahsoka.
there too. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the owl is like the embodiment of the daughter after she like sacrifices herself for Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. So it's kind of like her proverbial protector for the whole time.
Yep.
And I thought it was awesome that Balin is on not only the statue, but he's on like the father. I mean, like the father's arm, like
Yes.
leading him somewhere. Like I thought that was just tremendous. And so, you have to wonder like, what did Balin learn? Because he's got on like the classic Star Wars poncho. He's not wearing like his regular, dark Jedi thing. He's got like a poncho on. It's like, what did he learn and where is he going? Because he's clearly looking out into the mountains and he saw something. So I mean,
it
like
looked
said,
like a beacon and it was
yeah.
orange, very similar to his lightsaber, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how they can continue the story without recasting Rey, rest in peace, in some form or fashion, because they've clearly set this up to keep it going forward. And this is clearly the thing that was calling to him. We had our speculation before about what was calling to him, but it was clearly the Mortis gods, and they had a big part in Clone Wars. They had a big part in Rebels. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this next and how that plays into everything.
Very cool. Rezi, what about you?
So Dab just like basically revealed that to me on air, and if people are watching this, they'll see my eyes bug out because I'm literally making these connections on live, like in the podcast. This is insane. So I was trying to. I was like, I know the significance behind it. What is it? And yeah, I mean, it's just thank you for dropping that. Yeah, it was really cool, but I feel like I now need to go back because I literally did the homework for this show, watching specific episodes of Clone Wars or Rebels. I didn't watch the whole thing in its entirety. I think I watched all of the last season of Clone Wars and the last season of Rebels. But regardless, like I definitely want to dig deeper into this, but it's really fascinating. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little more. I'm very excited to kind of see where this goes, but also sad about Rey's passing and just get to see this amazingness on screen.
Yeah, Rey's passing is really sad because I think everybody wants to see more of this. I think that's what a lot of people are excited about. So the people that don't know about what we're talking about, the owl, Moray, and then with the father, the son, and the daughter, this was in Clone Wars episode 315, 316, and 317. You can literally watch these 3 episodes without having any other knowledge of stuff. You can literally just go to these 3 episodes. It's like a self-contained arc that you can kind of just watch and kind of know everything. It's really, really cool. So basically what happens is in the beginning of the episode, there was the distress signal. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan Kenobi basically go to this place and they go to the coordinates, and then the clone troopers are also there at the same coordinates, but they don't see each other. So it turns out they've been sucked into this other galaxy somehow. When they get to this galaxy, they meet the daughter, and she's supposed to represent the light, and the sun is supposed to represent the dark. So the Force, there's the light side, there's the dark side. So Anakin thinks he's a Sith. He goes, I am not a Sith, and I am a Sith. It is like kind of saying like, hey, I am kind of part of the dark side, but I'm not just a Sith. I'm way more than that. So the father brought them there because he wanted to know if Anakin Skywalker was truly the chosen one. And he says only the chosen one can defeat his children. So basically, they kind of do this thing where they make Ahsoka and basically I believe Obi-Wan, they're kind of like captured, kind of like how Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, like, you got to make a choice, kind of like one of those situations. But somehow Anakin defeats them both and saves both. So he goes, that's how he proves that he is the chosen one. So once he proves that he is the chosen one, he has to stay there and take over the father. Anakin is supposed to live on that planet and become the new father because he is the only one that can control his children. The father is the only one that can control his children, but he's dying. And if Anakin doesn't take over, they're going to leave this planet and wreak havoc all over the world. So Anakin is like, fuck that. I'm not doing this job. Like, it's got no 401k. It's got no health plan. I ain't doing this shit. So they decide to leave. And as they leave, they kidnap Ahsoka. And then Ahsoka gets transformed. And as they're doing this, he basically accidentally kills the daughter. So the son kills the daughter by accident because he was trying to kill his father. Because if he kills his father, he can leave the planet and do whatever the hell he wants. So as they killed us, Ahsoka also has this like thing done to her, and as she has this thing done to her, she's dying also. So the daughter, her last dying act was to breathe life into Ahsoka. So Ahsoka is connected to the daughter, and a lot of that is with the owl. The owl is like the manifestation or something of the daughter. And what happened is, I believe Anakin goes back and goes, hey, I think I need to go back and make sure that the father can take care of the son now that the daughter's not there. So Anakin goes back and he goes to the place where the dark side is the strongest. And this part is one of the craziest parts ever. Basically, the son shows Anakin his future. Anakin finds out that he kills Padme. He finds out about the fight between Obi-Wan. He finds out that he kills younglings, and he finds out that like all the horrible stuff he done, that he turned into Vader. And he goes, "No, I don't want to do this." And he says that the Jedis are actually the reason a lot of this stuff happened. So he goes to the dark side. But the father ends up erasing all that memory from him, and basically they go into another fight, and finally they kill the son. So the father, the son, and the daughter are all dead at the end of this episode. So this is catching you up on what happens with the Mortis gods. Adome, is there anything I missed?
No, I think you covered it, but I think it's interesting that, like I said, Balin is on the father's arm, and the son statue is intact, but as you mentioned at the beginning, the daughter's head is completely gone. Why is that? That's the big question, because Moray is clearly just hanging out and chilling, but no, I think you covered it beautifully.
Yeah, so that's a little summary of like what happened there. So I thought that was really, really cool. Ruzzy, any thoughts about that, about the Mortis gods, other than did that make sense to you? I know you just seen it.
And I think it also comes together with the finale of the series with the Lothal, and kind of like going into the world between the worlds. And that kind of the gateway that they have, and they're trying to excavate towards the end of the series. So yeah, I mean, I think like I got that part. I'm definitely gonna have to go back and watch those 3 episodes. It's like I don't know how I missed that. I don't know how I missed that. That's crazy.
Watch those 3 episodes. They're actually really good. They hold up pretty well. But as you said, there's an episode in Rebels too where Ezra goes to the world between worlds, and he does that by touching a mural, and he touches the painting of the daughter, and he goes into the world among worlds. But when he touches the sun, the mural disappears and it gets destroyed, so he can't go back there. It's just really, really cool how they did that. And this was like so like outside of the realm of like the regular Jedi stuff and Mandalorian stuff. This is like almost like mystical, and the explanation of where the Force comes from and where the Force is like, why is it strong here. I never thought they would go into this, but they are, and it's really, really cool. Jess, any final things about the Mortis gods before we go into the finale of the Hera and Ezra reunion?
Not about the gods, but did we talk about the scene with Anakin yet or no?
No, that happened at the very, very end.
Okay, yeah, then
that's
I'm
the
good
last one.
Yeah. So we see Ezra show up in this stormtrooper outfit, and the first person to recognize him is obviously Chopper. I don't know what Chopper is saying, but he's saying something. He's like, "I knew of you, you son of a bitch." Something like that.
Where have you been?
Bitch better have my money. Chopper's like, "You owe me." So Chopper was the first one to recognize him. I love the Hera and Ezra, reunion. Ghost Their ship is in the background, which I thought was really, really cool. Love that. What were your guys' reactions to the reunion? Rosie, you want to go first?
I wanted more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I'm
I
with you.
actually my headline was initially half brown guy is a sap, because I felt like I really just like love emotional moments like that, especially ones that are like long deserved. And after watching Rebels and then watching the show, like I just felt like it was kind of cheapened by like maybe they're just trying to rush it, but like I I don't know. I mean, I kind of would have want to see Kira come in for the hug and all that. Like it just like and having the conversation like where the hell have you been or whatever kind of quippy thing that she
Yeah.
would or he would come up with. I felt like it was nice and I kind of like that those emotional stakes that were brought like those came up and then it just like transitioned, Star Wars transitioned. I was like, damn it.
I can see that. I feel like Jason being there would have been really, really nice too, and Ezra would have been like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
really sad. That would have been
Oh
cool,
yeah, that would have been even better. That would have
right?
been even better.
Yeah. A dome. What about you?
So I thought the cinematography was pretty awesome because if you remember, this is exactly how Shin and Balin arrived in the
Yes.
beginning of this of the show when they came up and all the people were standing there, and it was kind of funny because like everyone was on guard and they got off the ship and the captain was like, "You're not Jedi," and then obviously they kill everybody. But here, single stormtrooper, no one says anything, and then Chopper walks up and he takes his helmet off, and we're all like, it's Ezra." I will say I agree about them not really closing all the emotional I guess reunion parts of it because to me, you know, Sabine and Ahsoka got reunited in the series, and then Sabine and Ezra, and then Ahsoka, Sabine and Ezra. But where the hell is Zeb missing it all? That's my one gripe because he has
He's
such an
training
emotional
people,
connection.
man.
Yeah, but he has such
Where's Zeb?
yeah, he has such a connection with Ezra. I was almost like, well, you can't just have a meet up with Hera and not have Zeb involved. I mean, Chopper's the only one who
They don't
kind
got
of got
money for the CGI.
yeah, right. Like Chopper's the only one who kind of got like half of a hug, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was fantastic, and I think they have to show Ezra meeting Jason after he gets his reunion properly with Hera and Zeb.
Oh yeah. True. Jazz, what about you?
They covered it pretty much. Like
Okay.
I do wish there was more, like Rosie said. It is what it is. I feel like they could have done an extra 10 minutes here just to add some more emotional depth.
Yeah.
But, I can't, yeah, I'm complaining about it. That's really all I got to say about it.
All right. Well, at the end of this episode, basically what happens is Sabine thinks she saw something, and Ahsoka asks her, "What is it?" And she goes, "Oh, nothing. Must just have been some shadow in the starlight." And then, as she says that, we pan and we see Anakin just looking over and like being super proud of Ahsoka. Jazz, you mentioned that part and you wanted to go into that. So, what are your thoughts about that?
So, this is I think, one of my favorite parts of the entire series, actually. This scene right here, where we see Anakin, right? Anakin himself got somewhat of a redemption arc after being Vader, and then they're trying to tie up some, loose ends here with the Ahsoka training. But what I found most significant about this scene was that, Anakin killed Padme. And this was all because of the Jedi Order and the rules that he couldn't get married, even though he loved this girl. He had to get rid of all of his attachments. And then now we see Sabine tap into her force and tap into it stronger than ever because she's by Ezra, right? It's powered by love. It's not powered by distance and unattachment. So it's cool because uh you almost see this as redemption for Anakin, that no, maybe the Jedi Order was wrong, and that if you do tap into the Force from a place of love, it could be even stronger than anything that you can imagine. And so seeing Anakin here just looking on, I think he's hoping to see his legacy saved through Sabine and through Ahsoka because she's his master, and then Anakin was Ahsoka's master. So I'm hyped for this, and this is very exciting. This scene was so good.
I think that's such a good point that you made, that, like, how love can be stronger, because it's a very common theme in Rebels, even though if it wasn't in the original Star Wars movie, because when Kanan dies, he is throwing back like the fire, and there's like an entire bomb that's going off, and he's pushing back the explosion with just the Force because he sees Hera. And one thing was really cool. Oh, my favorite part of Star Wars is that he's blind, but before he dies, the Force gives him his vision back, so he's here one last time. So
good.
good, dude. So
good.
good. Like, it's like, talks about how, like, love can make you stronger. Like, love gave him his vision back just so he can see her. So I totally agree with that. I think that's a really, really good point. But speaking of Kanan, Adom had a really good thought. Adom, what is your thought about what the what you call it, shadow in the starlight was?
Yeah, we're all talking about feelings of love, where this is going. My goodness. So I think that Sabine actually saw Kanan when she looked.
Ooh.
She wasn't really sure, because obviously she's still pretty new in her Jedi stuff. I mean, I don't think Ahsoka has explained to her, hey, people from the past can just show up as ghosts, and you might have to like talk to them once in a while. She didn't get that lesson yet, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Sabine saw Kanan, because it was a long look. And Jazz, you hit the nail on the head with the whole thing about Anakin, but I actually think, to take it a step further, Anakin was looking at Ahsoka and what she had, and he was kind of thinking to himself, I didn't screw everything up from when I was Anakin Skywalker before I turned into Vader. Yes, I lost Padme. Yes, I helped destroy the Jedi Order. Yes, I lost Yoda and I lost everything, and I became Darth Vader. And I thought I lost my unborn child, but I didn't mess up Ahsoka. She's been the constant the entire time. That's kind of why he was there, kind of smirking, like, "Damn, Snips, you actually, you are carrying on my legacy. I actually did do something right." And then, part of me was a little annoyed by that whole scene too, because if you remember in like Force Awakens, all those times when Kylo was saying like grandfather, like Anakin is nowhere to be found to like give him any kind of guidance at all. So I was kind of like, it's kind of selective Force ghost calling here. Didn't give Kylo no love.
Left him on red.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But good on Anakin, because Kylo was bad at that point. So
That's true. I mean, but still, I mean, you could have pointed him in the right direction. That's just my personal gripe.
Fuck my grandkid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Rosie, what are your thoughts of the Anakin Skywalker whatchamacallit cameo?
Yeah, so I had some technical issues, so I dropped off for a couple minutes. Apologies. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a really nice, fulfilling conclusion. Um, and it goes back to the quote earlier that Ahsoka shared with Sabine in their conversation, that Anakin, he always stood by me even when no one else did, and whatever happens next, that she would be there for Sabine. And so I think like that was very much a kind of like the realization that even though that Ahsoka left the Jedi Order, even though she felt she was always all alone, and then didn't know what happened to Anakin, like um this is just a really fulfilling conclusion on that regard. So actually I would give this an like I think like it was a good episode. I liked it.
Yeah. So one thing I forgot to mention, I had this written down. Thank you for reminding me. So when she said he's the only person who stood by me, she's directly referring to when she was on trial for murder, and that's why she leaves the Jedi Order.
Exactly.
And if you remember, Anakin was the only one who was convinced that she didn't do it. And the entire Jedi Council was like, we're not sure, blah, blah, blah. And that's why Ahsoka left the Order. So that's...
Yeah, they kicked her out.
Yeah.
They kicked her out, and then like she was offered, they reneged on that because they realized that she didn't do it. And after that, she had just already lost faith in the council, in the Order. So she
and that saved
away.
her life, in my opinion. The fact that she was willing to walk away and not deal with the nonsense. I mean, it turned her into who she is.
Yep.
Totally.
Very true. All right. Before we end this episode, I do want to talk about some Easter eggs that I've researched and found out by watching a bunch of other podcasts and a bunch of other places. But there was the oath that the Night Sisters take is the same exact oath that they used on Ventress, which I thought was pretty cool. So I thought that was pretty fun that they brought that back. Also, Ventress was mentioned in an earlier episode. Asajj Ventress was mentioned in the episode where training program of Hayden Christensen kind of shows up of Anakin Skywalker. Also, what you call it, Ventress was the one who gave him his scar, by the way, so which is like no one really knows where he got that from. We talked about the Blade of Talzin, also belonged to Maul's mother. We talked about the reference to Narnia. That was pretty cool. This would be Ezra's third lightsaber. He had a green one that would also turn into a gun. And then he had his, no, that was the blue one that turned into a gun. Then he had his green one, and now he has this one. So this would be his third lightsaber. And then we talked about, there's this one point where Sabine goes, "I'm sorry," and Ahsoka goes, "I know," which is a little bit of a reference to the Han Solo, "I love you, I know." I thought that was really, really cool. And they mentioned that Thrawn woke up the witches. So the witches weren't just there. They were probably in some kind of like hyper state or some kind of like, I don't know, tomb. And he was the one that woke them up. I thought that was really interesting. We talked about the Mortis guys. Let's see. We talked about how she was the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. Yep, I got that. Let's see, what else do I have? I think that was it. I think also Shadow in this Starlight is actually a book or the name of one of the Star Wars books. So when she says that, it's a little bit of a reference to that. I think it's called the High Council, Shadow and Starlight. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But those are all the Easter eggs. That's all we have for the show. We kind of went through it. We talked about our feelings for the finale. We talked about where it ranked on the shows. And now we broke it down, did the reviews, did the Easter egg, did the recap. I loved it all. Adom, thank you so much for coming on this show. I don't know what else you're watching these days, but we would love to have you back for some other stuff. I know Loki is coming back. We would love to have you for Loki.
Actually, you know what's funny? I've already seen the first 2 episodes of Loki.
Oh, cool. I actually saw the first 2 episodes of Loki too, actually.
Oh, so cool. We should talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can have you on back for that. Ruzzy, you're always welcome whenever you have time. Anytime you want to jump on, feel free. Adom will actually be joining us for our Love is Blind episode tomorrow. So if you have not got your fill of Adom, feel free to come in and
bring in a special guest with me too. So that
hard pass.
It's really hard for us to find people who are in the Venn diagram of reality TV and nerd culture. It's so hard to find.
I am there thanks to my wife. Yeah.
Yeah, I could ask my wife, but she has already told me no several times.
Yeah. All good. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We love having you on. And until next time, guys, Salaam nerds.
Peace.